मातंगवदना मा पालया,
मातंगवदना मा पालया,
मातंगवदना मा पालया,
मातंगवदना मा पालया,
मौलीश्वर शिव गौरी नंदन,
मौलीश्वर शिव गौरी नंदन,
मौलीश्वर शिव गौरी नंदन,
मौलीश्वर शिव गौरी नंदन,
मंगलदायक सिद्धि विनायक,
मंगलदायक सिद्धि विनायक,
मंगलदायक सिद्धि विनायक,
मंगलदायक सिद्धि विनायक,
मातंगवदना मा पालया,
मातंगवदना मा पालया,
मौलीश्वर शिव गौरी नंदन,
मौलीश्वर शिव गौरी नंदन,
मौलीश्वर शिव गौरी नंदन,
मौलीश्वर शिव गौरी नंदन,
मंगलदायक सिद्धि विनायक,
मंगलदायक सिद्धि विनायक,
मंगलदायक सिद्धि विनायक,
मंगलदायक सिद्धि विनायक,
मातंगवदना मा पालया,
माहे मा, माहे मा, माहे मा, माहे मा, माहे मा, माहे मा, साई माता जगज्जननी, साई माता जगज्जननी, साई माता जगज्जननी, साई माता जगज्जननी, माहे मा, माहे मा, माहे मा, माहे मा, वीणावादिनी सरस्वती माता, वीणावादिनी सरस्वती माता, वीणावादिनी सरस्वती माता, वीणावादिनी सरस्वती माता, जगतपालिनी लक्ष्मी माता, जगतपालिनी लक्ष्मी माता, जगतपालिनी लक्ष्मी माता, जगतपालिनी लक्ष्मी माता, अम्ब भवानी गौरी माता, जगजननी माहे
जय हरि कृष्ण गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
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 राधा मोहन राधा जीवन
राधा मोहन राधा मोहन
राधा जीवन राधा मोहन
राधा जीवन राधा मोहन
मंजुल कुंज विहारी
मंजुल कुंज विहारी
जय मंजुल कुंज विहारी
जय मंजुल कुंज विहारी
जय हरि कृष्ण गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
जय हरि कृष्ण गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
राधा जीवन राधा मोहन
राधा जीवन राधा मोहन
मंजुल कुंज विहारी
मंजुल कुंज विहारी
जय मंजुल कुंज विहारी
जय मंजुल कुंज विहारी जय हरि कृष्ण गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् अथ पुरुषो ह वै नारायणो कामयतः प्रजा सृजेयेति नारायणात् प्राणो जायते मनः सर्वेन्द्रियाणि च खं वायुर्ज्योतिरापः पृथिवी विश्वस्य धारिणी नारायणात् ब्रह्मा जायते नारायणात् रुद्रो जायते नारायणादिन्द्रो जायते नारायणात् प्रजापतयः प्रजायन्ते नारायणात् द्वादशादित्या रुद्रा वसवः सर्वाणि च छन्दागुंसि नारायणात् देव समुत्पद्यन्ते नारायणे प्रवर्तन्ते नारायणे प्रलीयन्ते ॐ अथ नित्यो नारायणः ब्रह्मा नारायणः शिवश्च नारायणः शक्रश्च नारायणः द्यावा पृथिव्यौ च नारायणः कालश्च नारायणः दिशश्च नारायणः ऊर्ध्वश्च नारायणः अधश्च नारायणः अन्तर्बहिश्च नारायणः नारायण एवेदगुं सर्वम् यद्भूतं यच्च भव्यम् निष्कलो निरञ्जनो निर्विकल्पो निराख्यातः शुद्धो देव एको नारायणः न द्वितीयोऽस्ति कश्चित् य एवं वेद स विष्णुरेव भवति स विष्णुरेव भवति ॐ शान्ति
Om Shri Sai Ram, offering loving pranams at the lotus feet of our dearest Bhagwan, respected Vice Chancellor of the Institute, Professor B. Raghavendra Prasad, esteemed Trustee of the Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust, Dr. Vijay Kelkar, who is also our guest speaker for this evening, respected Registrar of the University, Professor B. Sai Giridhar, Director of the Brindavan Campus, Professor N. Shivakumar, Directors of the Prasanthinilayam, Anantapur and Muddanahalli campuses, Wardens of all the hostels, Deans, Heads of Department, Associate Heads, Faculty members, Research Scholars, Members of Staff, Viewers from all over the globe, and my dear students, sisters and brothers, a very warm welcome to each one of you to this evening's special program. It gives me great pleasure to welcome amidst us Dr. Vijay Kelkar, who has worn several hats in his service to the nation, both in the past as well as in his venerable young age of 81 years, continues to do so in the present as well. Dr. Kelkar currently serves as the Chairman, India Development Foundation at New Delhi, which is a private, non-profit research organization that, through its rigorous research contribution, aims to foster an innovation economy, use technology for developmental objectives, enhance India's human capital, and measure the efficacy of India's developmental policies. Dr. Kelkar is also the Vice President at Pune International Center at Pune, which aims to promote all-round socio-economic and cultural development of the city of Pune in particular and India in general. He is also the chairman of Janvani at Pune that aims to make Pune the best place to live and work. Above all, for us, he is one of the esteemed trustees of the Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust since the year 2014. Dr. Kelkar, as one of the most preeminent Indian economists, has in the past been associated with several institutions in the country. He is popularly known as the architect of GST, Goods and Services Tax. He was the chairman of the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy at New Delhi. He was the chairman of the committee constituted on revisiting and revitalization of the public-private partnership model of infrastructure development. He was the chairman of the Forum of Federations at Ottawa from January 2010 till March 2013. He was the chairman of the Finance Commission until January 2010. He was earlier the advisor to the Minister of Finance between the years 2002 and 2004, and is known for his role in economic reforms in our country. Prior to this, he remained Finance Secretary to the Government of India between the years 1998 and 1999, and in 1999, he was nominated as Executive Director of India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka on the board of the International Monetary Fund. Prior to all this, he has held various senior level positions in the Government of India as well as in international organizations. In January 2011, the President of India awarded Dr. Kelkar Padma Vibhushan, the second highest Indian civilian award for distinguished and exceptional services to the nation. Apart from all this, Dr. Vijay Kelkar has also taught at premier educational institutions in India and abroad, such as at the Administrative Staff College of India at Hyderabad, at the Center for Economic Development and Administration at Kathmandu in Nepal, at the South Asia Institute, Heidelberg University in Germany, and at the University of California in the United States. Recently, Dr. Kelkar co-authored 2 award-winning books. First, which goes by the title, In Service of the Republic, The Art and Science of Economic Policy. And the second, that goes by the title, Rising to the China Challenge, Winning through Strategic Patience and Economic Growth. This evening, under the ambit of the G20 Jan Bhagidari event, organized in the context of India assuming the presidency of the G20 group of nations this year, Dr. Vijay Kelkar will address us all on the topic Economic Development of India. I now request Dr. Vijay Kelkar to please address the gathering. Dr. Vijay Kelkar.
First, I offer my humble pranams to the lotus feet of Swami. And I want to tell Vice Chancellor, faculty, and the students how deeply honored I feel to be here. This is my first visit to the campus. And hopefully I'll be coming more often because in coming months and me and my wife are shifting our residence to Bangalore. So you may be able to not be able to avoid me coming to the campus. G20, as you know, is a group of 20 nations which are the largest in terms of size, economic size. Economic size is essentially this has membership. And India is a very prominent member of this group. And one of the reasons why India is prominent, because now India is the 5th largest economy in the world. So economic growth is extremely important to not only to achieve our objectives, each one of us, our society, but also to play a role. Is it better? But also to play a role in the... Better? Your colleague is signaling to me that I can't hear you, please speak properly. So I have to take his permission. It's okay now? So that's the focus of today's our discussion. When I was invited to come here by your distinguished principal, I told him to look, instead of doing bhashan, I would prefer to have a conversation with our students and the faculty, because I find, and it came out, it's coming to me every day because I interact with my grandchildren. I have 2 grandsons. And every time I talk to them, I learn more, I notice. So I say I better have a conversation than give a lecture from here. So growth is central. Growth is central not only for achieving our own objectives, but also to play role in the world, to take the world in the right path. To the world is more peaceful, India must have a voice. To make world more environment friendly, India must have a voice. So you can get voice only if you can grow. So economic growth, unfortunately or fortunately, is a key. Now, most of you are probably born after 1991. So that's why I started the year of 1991, when our economic reforms were started. It was launched by our great Prime Minister, Narasimha Rao, and our other great Prime Minister was at that time Finance Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. And since then, India has not looked back, by and large. Now, if you take periods of economic growth from 91 to 2021, roughly for 30 years, so 3 different decades, the Indian growth rate has been quite high. And it was 5.5 to 6% between first decade, which I mentioned, and second decade, which 2002 to 2012 or 2014. I'm also making it not really calendar-wise, but roughly with the period of prime ministers, so that it's easier to, because policies were determined by them, so it is helpful to understand. So the era of Manmohan Singh prime ministership, it got further accelerated, and the average growth rate almost 7%. Again, one of the highest in the world. And then, last 10 years almost, it has somewhat decelerated, is about 5.7%. So, till then, our secular growth rate was only 3 to 4%. After reforms, its first jump, 5.6 or 5.5. Then it jumped next decade at Manmohan times, and parts of Bajpayee's time. Actually, I had a great privilege to work with him. When I was finance secretary, he was the prime minister. And the number of reforms, so actually, if you think of waves of reforms, first wave was Manmohan Singh and Narasimha Rao. And second wave came really from Bajpayee ji and Manmohan Singh. So, and now we're in the midst of third wave, which is still not really completely taken shape, but it's in the forming. And growth rate now at 5% to 5.5. So now the challenge is how do we accelerate this growth rate, because mind you, this is still not good enough to meet the ambition of our distinguished prime ministers put to ourselves that India should become a developed economy, I think by the time of independence, centenary of independence, that means 2047, if I recall right. So this is a dream he has given to us. I think it's doable, but we need to do a lot of changes in the economic policies. So how to grow to make India a developed country is really a challenge. Then we can even serve better the G20 goals. Unfortunately, in the international world, power is the only currency. That was economic power. I'm not talking about military power. It is power, economic power and power of ideas. So that is what I thought we will discuss today. Growth rate got accelerated in the second wave of reforms. It has somewhat stalled. Still we are roughly 5%, but it's not good enough to achieve the targets which Prime Minister set to ourselves. So this is a key challenge we have, and these are my initial remarks. And now I'm very happy to hear from you and we can discuss. So if you can come and join me, then we can sit here.
Sairam sir.
Can you hear me? What is your name? Sai Sanjay.
Sai Sanjay. Sir.
Tough fellow.
Sir, you spoke of India becoming a developed economy, what are the advantages of becoming a developed economy, especially at the world forums?
There are two or three advantages I see them. One is that if you're an advanced country, you are in the high table of decision making. For instance, there is no way India is the world's largest economy. By the time when it's a developed country will become world's largest economy, not second largest, of course, still be China. So you have to be a member of Security Council. There's no way India can be denied.
Sir, can you hold this also, sir?
So there's no way the world community can deny India to sit on the Security Council. And as you've seen, Security Council is extremely important instrument created by all the nations for peace. For maintaining peace, solving these disputes, the Security Council has final authority. So first, I think if India is the largest, second largest economy, we will be on the high table of managing, helping peaceful world, managing conflicts, avoiding wars, and ensuring that every members benefit from the group. That is one advantage. The second advantage once you become world largest economy, or second largest, is because also the influence of global monetary system. Today the global monetary system is essentially shaped by US because dollar is the main currency for exchange. The Indian rupee will become equally important instrument, helpful to world trade, improve the world welfare, and also we can help the world economy in a more rational way. Today, take the example, the American dollar's domination allowed them to suddenly bring sanctions on Russia, saying that you will have no access to global banking system. Now that's inconceivable if you're there. Because India will be always voice for peace. We have been non-aligned right from the first day when India became independent. India always took a view that we will be autonomous. We are not in one block, either this block or that block. We take decisions on the merit, and we take decisions on the basis of everybody's welfare. So that's the second advantage. And third I think advantage is that India will also help, once we become strong enough in terms of size, to bring climate crisis, which is now there, under control. So we'll also ensure the green future for not only for us, but them, for their grandchildren, their children. So that's the third contribution we can make, to bring peace to the world, make it more equitable, and most important, make Earth peaceful by stopping environmental damage. So these three I can see.
So wonderfully you explained at least the three important reasons of advantages of India becoming a developed economy. As I can also understand, sir, the current economic development philosophy is based on what we call as the trickle-down effect, which means that if the economy grows at a particular level, essentially the lower strata of the society will eventually get the benefit of this economic development, if not immediately, at some later point of time. Based on your understanding and based on India's experience, because even though India is the 5th largest economy in the world, we still have a considerable amount of population whom we can call as economically backward or poor. How does really this trickle-down effect really work when it comes to economic development, sir?
I think you have raised extremely important point, and as they say, and many of the students are mathematics also, there are some necessary conditions and sufficient conditions. So obviously high growth is not sufficient condition for equitable growth. That's what unfortunately happening in our country. In India, the growth is not being distributed evenly. Some sections are gaining at much higher pace than others. Some regions are getting at much higher than others. Some even some population segments are getting higher than others. So our growth is not equitable growth.
Sir. In fact, the Lawrence curve does not show a equitable growth at all for India. The Lawrence curve shows that actually...
Exactly. So India's growth is not equitable. And I think the one of the key failure has been, and which Swami understood and tried to correct it, is education. We just have not adequately invested in good quality education and access to all. For instance, Swami schools are all free. But he also ensures the quality is also very good. So I think we are not investing enough in providing education to our population across India, across the regions, and both men and women. So to my mind, education is the magic, is the magic. And second, of course, is fortunately we are all blessed our values of what education gives you. Education can give you, Hitler's Germany also people were educated. So education is may not sufficient condition. Again, necessary to have skills. But sufficient is what Swami does. And you are being extremely fortunate to have both necessary and sufficient condition. You are going to quality education in terms of knowledge, but you are even better education in terms of values.
True.
So these two are way, if you want what you said, more equity.
True, sir.
So education has been, and that has been a failure, I confess, that we didn't adequately invest in education. And states did. For Kerala, look at the Kerala, far more equitable society. Better access to education. Education. Values. Then only you can sort of do what you want of better society, more equitable society, more peace, and then the satisfaction.
Sir, in fact, you very correctly told that if the economic development of the country has to become beneficial to all sections of the society, one of the important things is there needs to be values-based education. This values-based education ensures that everybody, whoever gets the benefits of economic development, they work also to share that economic development with others. And that provides the benefit to everyone, which the economic development economists call as the trickle-down effect. Sir, apart from education, sir, do you think that the economy and the government has to concentrate on certain specific action plans so that the benefit of economic development will be available to large sections of the society, sir?
I think 2 or 3 areas are important. One, and especially I'm seeing these beautiful faces for them, environment, clean environment, concern for climate change, concern for global warming. Quality of growth is perhaps the most important, because there is no point of having higher quantity if it's leading to deterioration of environment, which means deterioration of not just human life, but all the lives. So we have responsibility because we are the most polluting agent in the global system. So one thing we have to be very, very mindful that growth does not mean just higher income and consumption. It's quality of consumption. So first responsibility is ensuring green growth, if you ask me. Nothing is more important than environmental sustainability, which I'm afraid I want to apologize on behalf of my generation. We didn't do it adequately. But there is a time to correct ourselves, and now is the time to correct ourselves. So one is environment. Second is knowledge. Today, even environment issues can be solved only through knowledge. Values and knowledge. So second is much higher investment in now, not in education, but skill development and research and development. Creating new knowledge and new processes. So second is that. And third, I don't know whether, I was not aware till recently I saw data. India has a distinction, not we should be proud of. India has a distinction of lowest participation of women in our workforce. So that's totally untapped resource. So we have to ensure that women come in the economic system as an active contributor. They of course do a very important job of looking after household and raising children. But the reason they can't work is because, I'm sorry to say, race is not at all friendly to women. I mean, just Bangalore, try to ask your sisters, why don't go by buses? It's impossible. We don't treat our women with respect they deserve. And unless the third issue also, women, environment, and
Knowledge.
high knowledge of technology. And of course, consistently underlying factor is values. Please, you are very fortunate, but please keep that, because without values, I'm afraid nothing is possible. So I'm taking it for granted in this house, the impulse values.
Sir, there is a question from Mr. Subramaniam at the Prasanthinilayam campus. Mr. Sairam at the Prasanthinilayam campus. He is asking this question that today, even when the governments, they are concentrating on economic development, a large part of the economic development also happens through the governments taking upon themselves huge amount of public debt, and because of which the debt servicing costs are also very much increasing. How is it that governments can manage and balance both economic development and at the same time ensuring that the public debt does not become a burden, sir?
I think the initial phase of development, and this is true with all the large countries. If you see the history of Japan, history of USA, economic history of Germany, all large economies, in the initial phase, government played a very important role. For a very simple reason, there was no capital with the private sector. To build railways require large capital. To big dams, water, require capital. Roads require capital. So initially, I think there was no escape or creating great Indian technology, Indian science, you require capital, which there was no private sector to supply. So I think that was an inevitable phase. Every country went through it. All large countries went through it. We also went through it. The issue was we didn't exit when we should have. That's why we had the crisis, and where our distinguished Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Narasimha Rao had to bring out reforms. And we all are children of reforms, post-91. It became necessary because we did not go on our own. We had to come a crisis to start moving away. So that is one way, number of areas which government should not do, we are doing. And that's one reason why debts are high. Second, debt side of the days are high because we don't tax enough. Countries which are compared to our size or our income, the tax to GDP ratio is a little higher than ours. So then only government can finance its own debt. So one is government should exit from a number of activities. Second, for instance, when I was Finance Commission, I had to go to all over the country. And I must share with you my shock. We went to Ludhiana, Punjab. Ludhiana has highest number of Mercedes-Benz cars per capita in our country. Highest. But 60% of city didn't have drainage. So you have rich city and poor government. Because nobody is paying property taxes. Nobody is paying taxes which require public. So we have to have, even in this city, look at the infrastructure situation. Because we are not paying enough here. So taxes to finance is still required. We require better transport, better public health, better schools, especially primary schools, better schools. And so we have to tax more. Government should exit many of the activities. So we'll do smaller activities or better activities. Then the quality also improve. If quality of government supplies goes up, everybody is better off.
So one of the lady students from the Anantapur campus, they have asked this question. One of the things that happens across governments is they are interested in giving a lot of subsidies to the people. How do subsidies really help the economy, or subsidies really hurt the economy, sir?
You see, in terms of theory, there are merit subsidies and not merit subsidies. Now, merit subsidies are where you want to influence behavior which is socially desirable. For instance, if you believe that smokeless chulha reduces pollution of a woman who is cooking, then giving them free is a good subsidy, which benefits society. But if you are giving me a tax incentive so that I can drive a bigger car, it's a bad subsidy. Because subsidy takes in two forms. One is direct subsidy, which is, we see, which is a lot of indirect subsidy gives by concessions. And those cost more than direct subsidies. I mean, you only see direct subsidies, but we don't see indirect subsidies given to certain sections of society by reduced tax rates or outright subsidy from the budget.
True, sir.
So, there are merit subsidies I think we should encourage. For instance, vaccination. The merit subsidy should be free.
Should be free.
All children should be given free vaccines. Every Indian citizen should get free vaccine. Because it improves public health and everybody's health. If I am vaccinated, I will pass on to you, or to him, or to him. So, there are benefits. When the social benefits are there, behavior which improves social good, and there are merit subsidies.
True.
But there are non-merit subsidies also. For instance, giving me ration wheat when I should be dieting is not a merit subsidy. So there are many non-merit subsidies. So we have to get rid of non-merit subsidies.
Not merit subsidies.
Merit subsidies are required, so we in fact expanded. We are not doing enough. Tribal areas, we are not gone enough and supported. I used to be chancellor of a university, which is India's first rural medical university. But some of the catchment area goes to tribal areas. And I remember, and it was used to deeply hurt you, when you used to get babies, when the weight at the birth would be 1 or 1.5 kg. Why? Because mother was malnourished. So nourishment given to the mothers, to the lactating period, is a good subsidy.
True.
So there are a number of good subsidies, and Yeah, I just want to tell you, but this is a university hospital. We had a special neonatal unit, and we did achieve the saving rate, Mr. Chancellor. 2/3 of children were saved. So, but they should not have been underweight. If the mother was getting enough nourishment.
True.
So there are good merit subsidies. Otherwise, you get lifelong people handicapped. Underweight child, he had learning difficulties, is a curse, is a lifelong curse. It should not be there in our country.
Sir, when we talk about the economic development of India, one comparison which automatically comes is how has India performed in relation to China? In this context, there is a question, what lessons India can learn from the economic development pattern and scenario of China?
You know, China is of course out of a different political model, and that I'm not going to comment on. I'm going to comment on economic policies. Incidentally, the same system adopted disastrous policies. You remember this greatly forward. According to some estimates, 30 million Chinese died. But I don't want to comment on that. However, Chinese emphasize education, free primary education, and freedom to same education of women and men. So labor participation rate of women is one of the highest in China. Then Chinese emphasized on land reforms, which has equitable impact on growth. So there are certain policies were desirable and policies, but I would not adopt the same policies. Our system is different. But we neglected education. That's, I think, major lesson. And incidentally, people tend to forget. You know what was average work week in China 30 years ago? 80 hours.
80 hours.
No, we average 40 hours work week.
Work per week, sir.
Yeah.
Hours per week.
70 to 80 hours. So you have to work hard. There's no
Shortcut.
no shortcuts.
No shortcuts.
So and it's a great civilization. It's they have tremendous knowledge base, their traditional knowledge. They absorb new knowledge. In that sense, they're open. But they've worked very hard. Their 3 generations worked very, very hard. 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And then only you could produce this kind of miracles. So it's not an easy thing to do. I don't think people, there was a lot of bad things happened there. There's a lot of difficult things to do. I really have a great respect for China. And anybody could do this in such a period of time, has to be respected.
Sir, while India and China are good examples of economic growth, we also see around us countries failing. One of the interesting examples is Sri Lanka, which was on a brink of economic ruin just some time back. And similarly, Pakistan also having its own economic problems. Are these countries managing their economies properly, or what are the issues involved in that?
No, I don't want to comment on other countries' failures. It's none of my business to talk about the failures. They're in their own challenges, and I really don't understand them fully. So it will not be fair for me to comment on this, why they didn't happen. Because in fact, Sri Lanka, I represented Sri Lanka in the IMF. It's, they're hardworking people, they're good people, very cultured people, highest level literacy, higher than India. So I don't want to, I just want to tell their strengths, that it's a very, very wonderful country, and I had the honor of representing them. But I'll skip this question on what the problems of other countries.
Sir, there are a few questions from our students also sitting here, sir. Sir, there are a few questions students want to ask, sir. Kindly introduce yourself, tell your name and class before you ask the question.
Sir.
Yeah.
You know it's a special mic.
Yeah, kindly speak.
It doesn't allow bad questions.
Kindly keep the mic closer to you and speak.
So my name is Aaron Pradhan and I am from first year BCom. And my question is that every year a large amount of rich people, they leave India and go to other countries. So how does that affect the economic development of India?
You're right, but it has happened in recent years. Number of high net worth individuals are indeed leaving India, but that's one sign why the world economy is getting integrated. So they may not locate themselves here, but that does not mean they have no economic interest here. And this will happen. I mean, I think human beings should have freedom where to work. And if they feel there are more opportunities outside, I think we should welcome them. Because India itself has a very large opportunities, I think. Now, why people go for various reasons. But the fact they are going, I have no problem. Because it's really individual choice. I mean, one can take a view that I can prosper better in some particular country or some particular area. I will not force them to stay here. You know, there's a beautiful sentence by Rabindranath Tagore. He said in his beautiful language, Bangla, which I don't know Bangla, but I'm translating in English. What Rabindranath Gurudev said that to love one's country has to be beautiful. So unless our country is attractive enough, so our idea is to make country attractive. Many people see our hunger here and they can't take it. Iniquities here and they want to go out. So it's really various reasons why people go abroad. So let's make ourselves, which we are here, make this country welcoming, beautiful, so they can stay if they want to. If they want to go, I don't think we should, I will have no problem. People should be free.
Yes. Kindly take the mic and ask the question. Is it audible? Sir, in the meanwhile, can you get the mic ready? Sir, in the meanwhile, there is a question from student at the Muddanahalli campus. The student is from the BBA course. The student has been asking this question quite interestingly. You did mention that for fundamentally, if the economy has to grow and it has to sustain, one of the important things is we need to invest in education. However, there are many people today who are not interested to teach because teaching itself is not necessarily a paying profession. How do we make teaching attractive and education itself as an attractive proposition?
Good question. I think you have to pay them more. Because in our book, which we call In Service of the Republic, Art and Science of Economic Policy, in economics, the most important word is incentives. People respond to incentives. It's very simple. All rational people respond to incentives, so provide incentives. Now, you can't expect only teachers should make sacrifices. Well, I don't. I think everybody should make sacrifice or everybody should get incentives. But you can't have only few people making sacrifices. So I think we have to pay more. Only thing I would qualify, we should pay more to good teachers.
Sir. Yes.
Saram sir, I am Pulkit Khare from third year BCom Honors. Sir, my question is that we have seen Indian economy benefit from liberalization and how the government has increased the ease of doing business in India. But sir, where do you think that the government can strike a balance between controlling the economy by regulations and setting it free?
You know, the economics teaches us that by and large personal freedom is better. People incentivize them, people pursue their own self-interest. That's the best way. But some areas is not enough. Whenever my actions affects him, then government has to intervene. For example, if I'm smoking and polluting the air, then they have to bring restraints on my behavior. So wherever there are externalities, what economists call, that means economic agents' actions affect other economic agents, government has to intervene. This is one. Second area in which government needs to intervene is that classic example is crop insurance. One farmer can't afford because the failure rate is not common to everybody, they're different. But collectively, if everybody is buying insurance, then some people everybody has to pay less and everybody can gain. Then the government has to intervene. So, in other words, markets don't always solve the problem because of externalities, or the benefits can't be appropriated. And third example is where government has to intervene is creation of knowledge. For instance, I invest in R&D. I'm a private company, I invest in R&D. I trained a person and he goes there and joins another company. I have no incentive then. So that's why if the government does not go into the area, overall investment in science and development will go down. Because I have no control on that person. I created his knowledge, but I don't get any benefit. So the high science, high technology has to be government financed. So a number of areas where the positive benefits but don't accrue, you should intervene. Number of areas, private action take negative, where the government to intervene. Otherwise, it's generally good policy to give people freedom. Because I know the best, no? I know what I want. So don't tell me what I should do. As long as I'm not affecting others. So that is roughly the sort of philosophy by which one should sort of think about what are the right areas to intervene and what areas one should not go.
Sir, there is a question from the Anantapur campus where a student has asked, you were talking about the importance of values for economic growth. The question that has come is, how does corruption impact economic growth in India?
Corruption affects badly because it gives incentives to the activities which is not socially rewarding. Now, but one has to go to the cause of corruption. Corruption happens because bad laws. If laws are bad, second, corruption happens because you don't allow markets to function. Third, corruption happens because of human frailties. People are just greedy. Finally, if you allow prices to work, corruption brings in indirectly the prices. So allow prices to function because corruption is really the shadow prices.
True.
They're really genuine. If the genuine market would have been there, prices would have revealed it. We bring government controls, then corruption takes place. So corruption is also failure of government. Government of policy making. I must tell you, Mrs. Vice Chancellor, the one thing I'm quite happy about what I did in the government. When I was in charge of Bureau of Industrial Cost and Prices, it used to control drug prices. So because this control was high, corruption was taking place. That either you got the substandard drugs, or some drugs were not available. Then they set up a committee for me to look at it. And that time our Mantri was a great Chief Minister of Andhra, J. Vengal Rao Garu left school at 4th standard and joined Gandhiji because he said, give the call for freedom, if you remember, Chale Jao movement. So, and then he became Chief Minister, twice Chief Minister of Andhra, and also Union Industry Minister. So one of my recommendations to him was, I said, sir, please decontrol all the vaccines. He said, why? Prices will go up. I said, yes, prices will go up. I'll tell you the advantage. You don't know, you're too young to remember, but you may remember. In those days, God forbid, if you were bitten by a dog, getting anti-rabies vaccines was impossible because prices were controlled. And people died. So I told my minister, I said, sir, I don't want, neither I want to know conscious, a single death occurring because some idiot like me put the price too low. Allow markets. So corruption went down, we got a quality vaccines, and India has now become the world's largest producer of vaccines. So you can, this is where I think markets play a very important role. If a government interference is the wrong thing to do. Better thing to do is allow markets to function. Government can supply them free, but don't stop production by price controls. So there are policies which intervene wrongly, it can lead to wrong outcomes. Done it rightly, you can get fantastic outcomes like vaccines. India really saved half of Africa because of vaccine manufacturers, because AIDS, but all over the world were controlled. India had no controls, and firms in India produced and supplied, and Gates Foundation estimate I've seen may have saved, could have saved few million people in Africa. Or take the example of COVID. It would have happened if there was price control. So, controls has to be done, remember incentives, use market. Not necessary, use market. And if you want to right people to get vaccines, supply them. Government buys them from the market, gives them free. Because you can misuse vaccines just because they're free. I'm not going to take twice anti-leprosy vaccine just because it's free. That's the one beauty of vaccine. I'm not going to take it free just because it's available. So use intelligently your instruments of policy, control and incentives.
There is one more question.
Sairam sir, my name is Sai Anuj from 3rd year BCom. While you were conversing with Shivkumar sir, you had mentioned that for a country to grow economically, there is a certain amount of attention which should be given to the environment as well. And my question to you, sir, is that while a rational person tries to maximize his GDP by producing more, well, he does not understand that production hampers the environmental progress of a nation. So I want to ask you, sir, is that how a country can make an equilibrium between maximizing their economy and also keeping environment in their mind?
This is a very good question. See what's happening now with new auto policy. Government is using two instruments. They are bringing standards, that emission standards for, now I can't produce any car I want. I have to produce a car which uses certain kind of engines which does not lead to pollution more than certain level. So one is standards. Second is encouraging new technology, which is electric vehicles. So the government have given excise concessions on, that's the second way of doing it. So one way by standards, which is regulation. Second is the price. You're incentivizing consumer directly by, so I myself am tempted, why should I buy diesel car? Now that EV are much cheaper. And then the government is facilitating EV stations everywhere on the highways. So that's the third role of government can do, in making available certain public amenities. So price, technology, and regulation. All the three are being used. I'm told, and I've not seen the data, but it's great surprise the speed with which EVs are catching up in India because of this. Electric vehicles are catching up. Even now, every major manufacturer in India is going for EV version. Tata's, Maruti, Toyota, Korean car, Kia. All of them are going. So all these instruments are working. So you have to use both regulation, because something you have to do with regulation. Second, incentives and disincentives.
On a global level, how would sir implement this? Like in India, the government will have a certain amount of regulation.
Global level, for instance, WTO today allows countries to have standards, cars which can be sold in that country or can be imported. So you have these international agreements which enables to have similar kind of technology standards. This is one. Second, there is an environment fund available for poorer countries for financing new technologies. So again, same instrument, regulation, technology transfer, and financing. But internationally, the progress is not as much as what we are doing in India, I think. I think India, I was surprised by the speed with which we are shifting towards EV. I was very surprised.
Sir, there are a few more questions, but we'd like to check up. Is it comfortable for you? Time is 5 o'clock, sir. Can we ask a few more questions, sir? Is it?
Well, they already asked us to stop at that. Let's last three.
We'll ask the last question, sir. Yeah. Sir, one of the questions which has come from the Anantapur campus now is, can Gandhiji's doctrine of trusteeship, can it be practiced in the present situation of economic development in our country? We'll take this as the last question, sir.
You know, if each one of us would have joined Swami school, we could have done it. Unfortunately, many of us didn't go to Swami school. So trusteeship requires high values, observation of high values by all of us, which is yet not there. So unless we bring all of us to this pupil standards of values, trusteeship is not working. The far more pursuit of self-interest.
Thank you so much, sir, for this very wonderful discussion. It is rare for us to get such extraordinary minds coming down to our level of students and make us understand the nuances of economic development. It is normally told, if there are 5 economists in a room, there will be 6 different opinions. So therefore, to bring it to our level where we can understand the nuances of economics and also make us understand and appreciate it in the current context, We thank you very much, sir, for bringing it to our level of understanding. Sir specifically pointed out two things which we can take as takeaways from this entire discussion and session. The first one, very importantly, education and knowledge. Today's world and economy is a knowledge economy. All of you students, in fact, have this extraordinary opportunity and blessing of getting this wonderful knowledge base, which you should use for our country's development. Additionally, yet another important facet that Sir highlighted was the cultivation of values. Today, we find and we speak to many professionals, they tell the real problems of this world are not actually caused by uneducated people. The problems of this world are actually caused by educated people who do not have a values base. And in that way, students of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning again are extremely blessed and have this advantage of getting values-based education as a part of their regular routine. We should be extremely grateful to our dear Lord Bhagavan for bestowing us on both these two boons of education as well as values. With that, we will be able to play a very useful and important role in not only our country's economic development, but also the global economic development. Once again, sir, on behalf of the institute, the administration, the campus, and in fact, on behalf of the students and staff across all the 4 campuses, we enjoyed this last 1 hour. We thank you so much for taking your time, for coming here and interacting with us. I now kindly request our respected Vice Chancellor to come on to the stage and present a small memento on our behalf to you, sir. We will close today's program with Mangalarti. We'll request our respected Chief.
Om Jai Jagadisha Hare Swami Sathya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Parti Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadisha Hare Sashivadana Shrikara Sarva Pranapate Swami Sarva Pranapate Ashrita Kalpalatika Ashrita Kalpalatika Apadvadava Om Jai Jagadisha Hare Mata Pita Guru Devamu Mariyantayu Nive Swami Mariyantayu Nive Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nagendra Shayana ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी ओ साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अंदुको मंगल आरती अंदुको मंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा शांति 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 समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति 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 जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।